What's up, my wealthy babies? We are back with another video. Now with today's video, it is part 2 of learning how to make your own wigs. Now with today's video, I'll be showing you guys basically how to sew on the bundles onto your dome cap. Now if y'all seen the last video, I showed you guys how to sew on your closure. So today we're just gonna finish the wig up and get everything together. So before I start sewing on my tracks, I always mark up my dome cap. Now the whole purpose of this is for me to know where I'm laying down my tracks. Now this method is very good for beginners. Definitely if you're someone who never sewed on a wig and you don't know where to lay your tracks at, this is a good method to use, because you just don't want to lay your tracks down and just start sewing and then you have either too many tracks or you didn't put enough tracks and it's just a hot mess and you have to start all over. So this is a method that I still use today, even though I'm not at a beginner level when it comes to sewing the wigs. I also want to let you guys know, if you choose to do this method of marking up your dome cap, make sure the lines are an inch apart. You could use like a measurement stick or a measurement ruler to tell what is an inch apart. But for me, I just go based off my eyes and I just draw the line where I want the tracks, because I've been sewing wigs for a minute now. But if you haven't done this before, definitely get a ruler. It's easier to use, and just mark it each line an inch apart, because you don't want your tracks to be so close together or on top of each other, because your wig is just going to be bunched up and it's going to look crazy. I'm all finished with making my lines, and here how it came out. It's not perfect, but at the end of the day, no one is going to see these lines, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's just basically an outline, and I know where I'm going to put the tracks at. So just keep that in mind. Your lines don't have to be perfect, but as long as you just know that this is the outline and you follow the outline that you made. So the bundle that I'm using in this video, I got from my beauty supply store. All of the bundles and the closure I got from the beauty supply store, but this bundle was actually on sale for $11.99. My neighborhood beauty supply store always have sale. I love it. But the length that I got was 10 inches, so that's probably why it was so cheap. But it's okay for starters to go to the beauty supply store and use the cheap bundles if you never made your own wigs. Don't waste your money on expensive bundles and closures if you never sewed a wig before, because sometimes you might make a mistake. So it's okay if you want to learn how to make your own wig to get those beauty supply store bundles. I'm pinning up this track to the first line that I made on my dome cap, but I just want to let you guys know that I am using double weft. So I'm using 2 tracks. I'm not using one. I want this wig to be a little bit more fuller. You can use 1 track at a time if you are beginners, but for me, I personally like to use 2 double weft when it comes to making wigs, because it makes it fuller for me. Now that I have my track pinned up to the line on the dome cap, I'm about to begin sewing. So what I'm doing right now is I'm putting the needle through the mesh part of the dome cap through the track. Now the only time you put the needle through the track is during the beginning and the end of sewing. And then once I got the needle through the track, I create a hole where I'm going to pull the needle through. So between the 2 strings that you guys see right here, I'm going to pull the needle through it to create the knot. With this process, definitely take your time and don't forget to support that thread. I mentioned that in the last video. If you have not seen it, definitely go watch it. But support your thread while you're sewing so you can make sure your stitching is tight. But the only time when I do put the needle through the track is when I'm creating a knot. You'll see me doing it like a couple of times in the beginning and the end, just so I can secure down the track on the dome cap. But other than that, you don't want to put your needles through your track the entire time while you're stitching, because you're just going to tear up the track and the weft is going to just shred to pieces and your tracks are going to end up falling out. So just make sure that's something that you don't do, because it's going to cause a headache later on. So now I'm going to show you guys the stitching pattern that I use to sew on my tracks. we're putting the needle through the mesh part of the dome cap behind the track, and then you pull the needle under the weft. You pull the needle through the whole part of your thread, just like we did when we created a knot, and you pull it all the way through until you sewn your track onto your dome cap. And that's basically it when it comes to this whole sewing process. This is the pattern you continue while you're sewing your track onto your dome cap. The only time it's different is at the beginning and the end of the sewing process. I'm going to show you guys again how to sew your track onto the dome cap. Like I said before, you basically just put the needle through the mesh part of the dome cap behind the track, and then you pull your needle under the weft part of your track, and then you just create your knot, and then you stitch your track into it. That's basically it. It's simple. I hope you guys get it. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below, but for now, just watch me work, and I'll be right back. I'm just jumping in and letting you guys know that I do cut the ends of my tracks. Some people don't do that. I personally do. It doesn't bother me when it comes to this part because, yeah, it works for me. So I cut the tracks and I move on to the next line. So we finally made it to the top of the wig, y'all. So at this point, I start to use only one track at a time because you don't want no bulky ass wig. You don't want no hump in your wig. It's gonna look ugly. So once you get to your last, I'm gonna say your third or fourth line, start to use one track at a time because it's gonna make it more flat and it's gonna look appealing, you know. So definitely keep that in mind. We finally made it to the last track and we're almost done, but this track is gonna be a little bit different than the rest. Okay, so with this track we're sewing it onto our closure, not sewing it on top of the closure. We're gonna sew it next to the closure. So towards the edge of the closure, I'm trying to show you guys the best way I can, but my camera is messing up. But with the track, we're sewing it next to the closure. As you see here, I'm putting the needle through the edge of the closure and also pulling it into the width of the track. But I'm making sure that I'm not sewing on top of the closure, okay? So it will be, the track will be next to the closure and not on top of it, as you see here. So if you keep watching, you'll get it, but this is just basically what I do for the rest of the process of sewing this last track. Alright, y'all, we are coming to the end of the video. I hope this really helped you guys learn how to make your own wigs. I'm all for being bougie on the budget, okay? If you have any questions, y'all already know to leave your comments down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. I'm going to show you guys how the wig looked. All I did was cut the inside of the dome cap so I can expose the lace, because you don't keep that part of the dome cap. I'm also going to show you guys what I did do to the wig. I did style it and everything and stuff like that. I did not leave it looking a hot mess, but I did style it. If you want to see more of what I did with the wig, follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. And yeah, so y'all already know the memo. If you're not subscribed, then what the fuck are you doing? You're missing out on some good ass content, girl. So thank you for watching, and bye, my babies. I can up, can I up, let me up. I can up, can I up, let me upgrade. I can up, can I up, let me upgrade.